All right. Is this thing on? Is it recording? Excellent. This is Rob coming to you from Earth in the year of our Lord, 2025. I've noticed something interesting about the species they called humans on this planet. They tend to click up together in specific groups. I've noticed these humans sometimes tend to find cliques, not for the love of the other humans in the group, but these humans tend to click up and join groups because I think they're unlikable. I noticed this from the least powerful, small size groups to larger size groups. That sometimes you find people that are jerks, and maybe are just unlikable naturally, click up together and form one massive wad of group of mean individuals. And when these mean individuals come together, they form a wad of mean individuals. And I've noticed this from small to large scales. And I think it's fascinating that sometimes these people, and normally, I think individually they're maybe insecure, scared. But when they come together and they find other like-minded people, and not only is it like-minded people that come together, but sometimes it's people that want to impress these bigger individuals in the group. They come in and they want to impress, so they're mean to other people. And the only social glue that holds some of these people together is the fact that they're mean to other people. And like I said, when you catch them individually, sometimes they may come across timid, scared, or insecure, or like they're threatened. So they come off as threatening. But these humans, I don't know if it's they think less of themselves. So they figure if they can be mean to other people, then the whole group will laugh and they'll feel better about themselves. But it's interesting because you can watch this on a small scale, in your neighborhoods. And then you can see it on a bigger scale. Remember, humans are the same. It doesn't matter if they can sing an amazing song, if they won an election, if they rigged an election. It doesn't matter if a human has $1 billion or no dollars. They're still part of the human species. And as much as you want to put some of these people on a pedestal, to be very honest, they're just as fallible. They have as many faults as anybody else. But as I come to you in the year of our Lord 2025, from the rock they call Earth, I report that sometimes these humans, who maybe no fault of their own, maybe they weren't loved, maybe these humans had something traumatic happen, instead of healing, they click up into these tribal wads, and then they outcast everybody else, and they do that in different ways. And it's a fascinating thing to watch, to witness happen. What's going on, Curtis? Good to see you. Maddox, hello. And I wonder why. I think the root of it's got to be some kind of thing within themselves, right? It's got to be something internal. But in the news, there is a Trump a President Taco follower who had stormed the Capitol, and her name is Pamela Hemphill. Great last name. Never forget it. Hemphill. We know what her ancestors were doing. And she stormed the Capitol. She got a pardon by Trump, and now she's in the news, linked down below, that she's refusing the pardon. She was sentenced to 2 months, which, listen, that's a long time if you're an older woman. That's a long time for anyone to have your freedom removed. Remember, folks, jail is supposed to be your removal from society. That's the punishment. Nothing inside of the prison should be more punishment. The whole reason we have that concept is you get your freedoms taken, so you're taken away from society. That's why you go to jail. If anything, we'd be trying to rehabilitate the character of the people that are going in there, addressing the trauma. But this lady, Pamela Hemphill, who stormed the Capitol, is refusing a pardon from Donald Trump and saying he's gaslighting us, he's lying to us, we were all guilty that day. That's what this lady who got a pardon is saying, which I commend her. Because you see many news stories about these pardoned individuals who are reoffending and going back to jail or prison. And it's just refreshing to hear somebody be honest. I think honesty can be respected no matter where you are in the world. Look at the patterns of self-segregation in any town or city. Well, I don't know what your name means, but if you look at different cities, it's technically not always self-segregation. When I went to real estate school, you learned a lot about redlining and certain racial covenants. You can look that one up. How back in the 50s, before we had Congress, the people fight to get equal availability to housing. Way long time ago, a few decades, here in America, if you owned a house, there was a thing they called a racial covenant where you could write in the deed that no black people, no Spanish people, no whatever was not considered white, no Irish people, no Italians. You could write that in the deed, and whoever, because it was in the deed of the home, whoever sold the home had to abide by that. That got abolished, thank God. But when you talk about self-segregation, I would hope you take into consideration that a lot of people were not allowed to buy in certain areas. And this is just historical. I know they don't teach it in school, but it's important for kids to know. It's important, and by kids, I mean anyone under 30. Because I feel like that's forgotten from a lot of these conversations, especially when it comes to stuff like that. When people are like, well, why do you think they're all living there? Well, why do you think? It was very specifically designed that way. It was specifically designed, like when you read about Elon Musk's new AI plant that's poisoning a town that's mostly black folk in whatever state in America. It was most likely designed that way. This was not by choice, and not to say that that didn't happen at some point, but when racial covenants and redlining and all this stuff was systemically designed to keep people in certain areas, usually the worst areas, it's not so much self-segregation as it is that's where you're allowed to go. But you see it in, this translates to so many news stories. Look at all the people who stormed the Capitol, right? Most of them, you'd think there was like, what was that thing that they were saying was some psyop, some sound wave that put everybody in a trance and gave everybody headaches? Some government weapon that was sonic. But if you remember that, it's almost like these people, MAGA, believe that stuff. You know, that they believe you could just storm a Capitol, bring a Confederate flag into the Capitol building, which has never been there, not even in the Civil War, and that they've done nothing wrong. I think a lot of them know they're liars, but I think when you get that group together, it's like a mass psychosis. They all start to believe the same thing. And if you get those people individually, like this lady, Pamela Hemphill, who's in the news, lawandcrime.org or com or whatever, linked it down below. And you get her outside or away from that group, and she could just start to be honest with herself. And she says, I'm not accepting the pardon. And this guy's gaslighting us, and it's been all lies. It's refreshing. And then when you look in the news, Newsweek article, linked down below, the locust effect. I haven't heard about that, but I would like to look that up. If you have the definition, please throw that in the chat, Curtis. But it's also fascinating that in the Newsweek article from today or yesterday, they're talking about how the government laid off hundreds, if not thousands of people. And now that the rehiring process is about to happen in July, they're already preparing for the loyalist red wave, the MAGA wave, to be hired into the government. They're not looking for qualified individuals. They said they're relaxing the degrees, no unnecessary degrees. They've got rid of DEI inclusion, so vets, disabled people, they don't get an equal shot. They want to get rid of that equality, that pesky, hello, Alyssa, that pesky equality. And now what Newsweek is reporting is part of the hiring process for the White House and the government will be 4 different essays. And I linked it down below. You could read about it yourself. You could read the questions. And it's almost like a decoy, because they say, we want these new hires to support the Constitution. But the biggest caveat is, one of the questions is, what presidential executive order, presidential memo, would you be able to further the best, and which ones do you like the best? And if you've been following along with the presidential memos, none of them are law. They're just like post-it notes for the government to do. And if you get enough loyalists in there, they'll do it. But a lot of them have been challenged in court and found to be unconstitutional. So usually you have government workers who take an oath to the Constitution. Usually government workers are working not for a particular, they call them nonpartisan. They're not for a particular party. They work for the country. And now you have a new hiring process laid out in Newsweek, the article down below, where the taco regime is trying to find people. They're trying to get people who will write essays about how they will help further President Taco's agenda. And that's it. And if you have any allegiance, if you pledge allegiance, it's not to President Taco. You pledge allegiance to America. I mean, it's right there. The wording couldn't be more clear. If you love America, you don't love President Taco. Just like if you love America, it's not because of who's president. It doesn't matter who's president. You love the country for what it stands for all the progress we've made, for trying to be a beacon of truth, for trying to progress human rights and equality for all, liberty and justice for all, right? Right? Isn't that in the wording? It's so funny, because you'd figure with the way they're trying to get rid of DEI that they would want to rewrite these pledges and national anthems, and they would say, we got to get rid of that liberty and justice for all at the end. Whew, that is DEI, folks. I mean, is that coming at some point? And just says liberty and justice for Taco, for President Taco. But it's just weird, and you see when these people gather together, they become, this is, I think, a lot of the times when you hear people say, like, I love people. Like George Carlin said this, I love people. He said you can see the universe in their eyes. He said, but I hate the public. I hate when people gather in groups, because something happens to these people. Especially when you get mean people together, or people who are very insecure, or people who always feel threatened, or people who are super, what's the word when you always think someone's coming for you? I can't think of the word. But subscribe. Makes finding me super easy. Yes, please hit subscribe. And the notification bell. Paranoid. Thank you, Dr. Mantis Toboggan. Get out of here. What, my favorite doctor? The only one I'll get off-brand subscriptions from? Dr. Mantis Toboggan. I claimed to be Dr. Mantis Toboggan the other day. Dr. Mantis Toboggan. Oh, and that's when they say enjoy the little things in life. It's stuff like that. Paranoid. That's right. When you get a bunch of paranoid people together, just think about that. I always equate it like this. I say, if there's somebody sick in your house and you live with a few different people, do the healthy people make that sick person better? Or does the sick person get everybody else sick? And it's the same with everything else. And when you get one mean person in a clique, whether it's, Donald Trump, he's going to make Elon Musk meaner. President Taco, sorry. Or if you get, like a Bernie Sanders and AOC, who I don't know if Bernie could rub off on AOC, and I don't know much, about what they're trying to do now, but I just know Bernie talks about universal health care being a basic right. It should be paid for by our taxes. He said we should tax the billionaires into extinction. They should not exist. After $999,999,000, 100% goes to taxes, goes back to our country, back to our communities, back to the people. Yes, Halem, football club as in the foot, not the pigskin. But when you get those people together, they're going to, whoever is expressing the more compassionate thing, most people will lean into it, or they'll break off from that little clique. I mean, this is really, I don't study social sciences or stuff like that, but I'm sure it'd be interesting to have a conversation with somebody who does. I don't like the idea of Bernie Sanders rubbing off on anyone. Leave it to Mel. Leave it to Mel. Welcome to the chat, Mel. I have to go. I need to sleep. You do need to sleep. Humans just need to sleep. Isn't that such a weird thing? That after 12 hours, our bodies go, all right, let's go to a different reality for a few. And then we'll come back. Like, how do you know you're going to wake up? You ever try to go to sleep and you're like, am I going to get up tomorrow? And you're like, I don't know. I'm just going to go to Super World Dreamland. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe I shouldn't say everything I think. But you see it. And it's just fascinating that all the stories today, the Newsweek story about the Taco regime trying to, just hire loyalists. Part of the questionnaire is, how will you further the executive orders of President Taco? Like, that should be so relevant. Wouldn't you want just the most qualified person to do that specific job? It's so weird because they don't care. They're like, we'll hire somebody who was on TV, has no, has no training in this specific field, but they are a loyalist. They are loyal to the crown, and they will not, go against the grain. They will not criticize us. They will not dissent. They will not question our authority. And that's all they're looking for. And then you read about this MAGA lady, Pamela Hemphill, great last name, and she has broken away from that psychosis. And she said, hey, I stormed the Capitol. We were all guilty that day. The President Taco is gaslighting us, and I don't want to accept the pardon. And she's encouraging others to just do the time because they did the crime. And I thought, wow, that's you don't see that. That's a unique individual, and I have respect for her. I don't respect what she did, but I have respect for her coming to that conclusion and being very honest with herself. And I don't know what her beliefs are today. They don't go into that, but just that honesty, I think anyone can respect that. Taco man. He is a chicken shit. Oh yeah, he's taco man. Taco man. And then I share this article with you that, what's up, Tim? I shared this other article with you. I think it's from the Guardian. And if you care anything for Earth, if you've ever seen a salamander and you were like, that's cool when you were little, or you saw an iguana fall out of a tree because it got too cold in Florida, or maybe a bison rammed into your car because you got too close in Yellowstone, or maybe a grizzly took both your legs from you because you wanted to be the next grizzly man. I don't care, but nature is radical. It's amazing. And if you've ever cared, if you've ever smelt a flower and thought, how does that smell? How How does it smell? How does a flower look like that and smell like that? If you've ever wondered these things, you care about nature. And there is a fascinating story from a scientist who, in the 70s, back in the 70s, let me bring it back to 1978. And there was this guy, this weird man, but God bless him, who was studying seeds in the rainforest in Costa Rica. And he falls, and his camera breaks his ribs. And he crawls back to his camp, and he hems his ribs up with like some cloth. And because there's no way to get out of this jungle, and there's no neighbors and no hospital, this man spends a month just sitting there waiting for his bones to fuse back together. Speaking of that, that's so weird that our bones will fuse back together, but other things in our body won't do that, you know? It's just so, it is weird, man. Stuff is weird. Don't think too much. And this guy sits in the woods for a month, and he starts to notice that every night there's so many bugs everywhere, right? And every night all these moths come to the lamp. So he builds this light wall, they call it. They use a sheet and lights, and all the bugs will fly to it so they can identify new species. They identify a gajillion new species, right? Caterpillars, moths, all these weird bugs. And it's very cool. And that guy he's spent from 1978 till now, doing the same thing. And it's terrifying. Yeah, Japan says they'll be able to regrow teeth. But I mean, how can we naturally not do that, but we could regrow a bone? I'm not critiquing God. I'm just saying, you know, you did some weird things. You did some weird things with the human body. But this guy who broke his ribs in 1978, studied all the moths that were being attracted to his camp that he was stuck in while his ribs fused back together, took pictures from 78. There's another picture from 1984. And in the article I linked, there's a slider you can do from 1984, and you slide it to 2019. You can see how many moths were on this light or on this light wall. And then in 2019 that there's like 6. Before it was like covered. It looked like a decorative carpet. Looked like a poster, a mushroom blacklight poster. And now it looks like, you know, obviously something's wrong. All the bugs are gone. And he states in the article that he did it same moon cycle, same time of day, same place. You know, everything was identical. What do you call that in science? A controlled experiment. As controlled as you can be out in nature. And he said, and also in this plot of land in the jungle where he's monitoring these moths and bugs, he said, everybody keeps driving over the curb here. You folks are driving over the fucking curb. He said these people, that this area of land was supposed to have no pollutants, no, what's the Monsanto stuff, no pesticides. It's supposed to be like a secured location that is pristine, no human interaction. And apparently he's saying, well, we're all connected, right? Everything on earth is connected. Like I was talking about the clicks earlier. Everybody's connected, you know, and everybody tries to connect up. Well, just the connectivity, even though they have no direct human contact, it's decimating these bug habitats, which who knows what the bigger, what the big picture means for that. I always think of that Mark Wahlberg M Night Shamalan movie where he's like, where's all the bees? And then, I don't know, the world dies. I didn't watch it. Remember back in the 90s when you drove on the freeway and you got off and your car was covered in bug splatter? See, Timothy, that's the stuff I'm talking about. I remember that, and now it's like that was such part of our culture. It was enshrined in movies, and now no bug splatter. And he documents in this article in The Guardian that I linked down below how when he traveled the world and he was coordinating with other locations similar to what he was doing, other scientists doing this, he said it affects, you know, if the bugs are gone, then the snakes are gone. If the snakes are gone, the lizards are gone. If the lizards are gone, the birds are gone. If the birds are gone, this is gone. And it's just this big chain effect. And it was scary, and it was also like, you know, really sad, because I noticed stuff around here just in New England from when I grew up till now, that there's no more toads. Where'd the toads and salamanders go? They used to be everywhere. You don't see the many monarch butterflies anymore. No, those were everywhere. Come on. Because people are too lazy to pull their own weeds. Timothy, amen. They use chemicals and it kills everything. I refuse to use chemicals. I hate any of that stuff, especially if you're growing food or if you're growing, just don't use, what is the big brand name? The grow fertilizer stuff. I won't use any of that. And there's so many natural things. That's the weirdest part. It's like a lot of these chemicals are synthetic substitutes for natural elements. I mean, if you really want to know how to grow stuff, just observe nature and watch how nature does it, you know? That's the one thing I couldn't figure out, though. There was one year I didn't want to clean up any of the leaves, and I was like, nature doesn't clean the leaves. And all those leaves are still there in the next year, and I had to clean them up. So just some stuff to think about today, you know, and be careful when you're clicking up, or if you see groups of people who are flocking together and being mean. You know, I want you to think about that differently, because they might be being mean, even if they're tough guys. They come across as tough guys, you know, like a Joe Rogan crowd. Sometimes they're just acting tough because they're so insecure, you know, that it would shatter their world if, I don't know, they either showed compassion for someone or if they got made fun of, you know. And I'd hope people can stop doing that, you know. And it seems like sometimes all the mean people click up, and then you just get this wad of mean people going around, and it sucks, man. Don't be a mean person, you know. From school age to old folks, just try to be nice. I try to get along with a lot of people. And I just want to encourage you, because I see young folks especially struggle with that, and even adults, you know. And I'll deal with it, you know. You see a group of cats that are just being mean and not, I don't know, and they say shit where you're like, damn, man, I know you're trying to impress somebody, so you're saying maybe heinous stuff, but like, I want people to try to be good role models for each other. I guess maybe, you know, sometimes people are making jokes, and I get that, but I'm saying, like, when they're seriously being like malicious, you know, it sucks. It sucks to see. But check out these articles. It takes a long time to turn plant matter into soil. The bugs got to eat it too. Yeah, that's true. That is true, Curtis. Check out these articles down below. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Curtis, Timothy, good to see you. Alyssa, and Officer Lucy Chen. And if you're watching this later, please hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is documentation from planet Earth, spinning rock in the galaxy, in the year of our Lord 2025. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Later, skater. Toodaloo, kangaroo, and a wild crocodile, or whatever. However it goes. But be kind. Be kind to other people. You never know what kind of day someone's having. You never know how. That's the bigger thing. It's like, how would you like to affect somebody? You know, would you want to be mean and have them turn around and, you know, be crushed from that? Or would you be the person that was just kind, and you're like, maybe you saved a life that day, or you renewed their spirit, or you sent them on a journey that they had the confidence to do? Just think about it. All right. And if you're new here, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. I do commentary on the news every weekday. Much love. Peace. You lift me up from one being to another. Have a beautiful day. Thank you. You as well.